This is a Nexus special, Episode 2, State of the Nexus, on Friday, February 24th, 2012. And now, with more State. So, first of all, we have two shows going right now.
We do?
And that, of course, is At the Nexus, the show you and I do. And we have The Universe with Sam Eberts.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about our show, because it's all about us. And so our show's going strong. It's been 15 episodes today, so we'll record our 15th today. It's essentially a recording of what we're going to be talking about anyway, because that's why we started this.
Yeah.
We would sit outside or stand outside in the cold and talk about crap. Really interesting stuff, but it wouldn't be recorded and nobody else could listen to it. So we decided to record it.
Yeah, I still think some of our talks have been better than our podcasts.
Yeah, and you know, we're working on that.
Yeah.
And so this show is highly sustainable because it's based on the news. So as long as we have news to cover, the show will go on. And presumably, even if there isn't much news, we can still find something to talk about. We're slowly moving the show forward with extended discussions with a lot of tangents. And those tangents are usually what makes the show pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. So we also have The Universe, which is the other important show on our group.
Yeah, I think that brings reviews in. And
so Sam Eberts, as the captain of that show, he has his own audience that's different than ours, so he brings in a unique group of visitors, which is great. So his show, of course, The Universe, as its name states, it's based on science, but we also talk about speculation and fiction, and we attempt at doing some news review for the week, but it's not necessary and not required. It's just something that's nice, because usually there is some NASA news or maybe a discovery of some sort. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to bring that in.
Yeah.
We usually have a major topic per episode on that show. Last week it was some scale for measuring how likely it is to find life on the Earth, or not on Earth. Yeah, the Drake equation. How likely it is to find life in the galaxy. And so those broad, big topics are great for that kind of a show because it needs to just...
It's great for Americans.
Right, it's great for Americans. But of course, like we were in our early stages, we're still getting into the groove on that show. Sam is new to talking on a mic.
Yeah, it's hard at first.
And so we're all getting used to it still. So that's good. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about some numbers.
Oh, I love numbers.
So we have some statistics here. So did you know we've been recording since nearly... November 13th.
November 13th.
Yeah.
How many days has that been?
It's nearly 100 days.
That's pretty good.
So we quietly launched the formal Nexus.tv on January 6, 2012, but it was a quiet launch. So that was nearly 50 days ago. Mm-hmm. And then we started promoting in real time everywhere. We started pushing out to Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus on the 16th, so the following week. And that was about 40 days ago. Mm. So the Nexus has about 20 episodes right now. At the Nexus made 8 episodes before launch in 53 days, and then 6 episodes after launch in 48 days. And of course, our 7th will be done tonight.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I think is interesting about this is that despite having a lower number of episodes now in about the same amount of time, it is because we launched other shows and we did other specials at the same time. So it almost is about even.
Yeah,
The Universe launched about 20 days ago, and we've had 3 episodes since, and we have our 4th on the weekend. It's going to be a great show. So I want to talk about downloads and views separately. So these numbers are really low in the scope of things, but keep in mind that we're not really advertising to anybody but the people that we know, and we don't know that many people.
We want to get solid before we make a fool of ourselves publicly.
Right, exactly. So these numbers are low, but at the same time, they're fine for what we're going for. So we've had nearly 120 downloads over the last 90 days, but keep in mind, we've only been live for 50 days.
Yeah, that is pretty good. Like, I know Twitch can do that in an hour.
So, well, I mean, they can do that in a minute, really. So our most popular show has been The Windows Are Jiggly. It had about 50 downloads.
That's good.
So that's great.
Wait, that's over half, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So that's what it is. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Now, these numbers don't have any indication of what happened before we went live. So before we started tracking the numbers on the website, when they were on my blog, we have no indication of what those are bringing. And if people are still listening to it somehow on the blog, those numbers aren't tracked either. So we probably do have more views than that, and I mean more downloads than that, but... Mm-hmm. So, At the Nexus is bringing in 84%, and The Universe is bringing in 14%.
Yeah.
So views now. So views are different than downloads in that downloads actually are people listening to it in some form. Views are just people reading the descriptions and leaving. So over the last 30 days, we've had 389 unique views. So if somebody comes to a page, goes away, and then comes back, it's only counted as one view, because that's what a unique view is.
Yeah.
So At the Nexus has had 32% of the unique views, and At the Nexus pages have garnered 3 minutes and 55 seconds of average time spent on the page. So that either depends on if they're downloading it and just waiting for it and leaving it open, or if they're actually reading some of the links in the background or something.
I hope they're reading the links.
I hope so too. So the universe, surprisingly, is only bringing in 12% of the unique views, but they've brought in more of the downloads, which is weird. So they are bringing in 48 unique views, and their average time is 2 minutes and 7 seconds, which isn't bad.
Yeah, I still want to see that go up, though.
I would too. Well, the sad number is, though, the homepage. So most people view the homepage, and I suspect they leave. So right now, the homepage is getting 143 views, which is 36% of all the traffic we have generated in the last 30 days. Now, that is kind of sad that the homepage is getting the most views, and then they just cease.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some user data, too, and user data is particularly interesting. Now, I bet you can guess where most of our listeners are.
Like Minnesota?
Yep, most people are coming from Minnesota. We do have in second place we have California, and then followed by Illinois, Wisconsin, Iowa, Arizona, Florida, and Indiana. But surprisingly, we do have a few international listeners. I don't know why, but some Brazilians, some French people, and maybe some Australians.
I wonder how they're handling that.
I don't think they are. So a majority of our visitors are returning visitors, which is great. We want to keep the audience that actually enjoys listening versus people who hate us. Most people who listen or at least view the website, aren't on mobile. They're using actual computers. They're usually using Chrome, which is fantastic because that's what I coded it all in.
Good.
And they're usually not logged into a social networking platform, which I find incredibly interesting.
Maybe they're just in incognito or something.
I hope that's not what it is. So 13% of our traffic is delivered to us by Google or Bing. 12.999% is delivered by Google.
Wow. I'm surprised you can get all these breakdowns. That's pretty cool.
18% is delivered by direct traffic. And so that means people are directly typing the links into their address bar, or they're clicking it on through instant message, or they're pasting it in directly so they don't have a referrer.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that number will go up once we start tailgating, or not tailgating,
Right.
but just spray painting stuff.
Yeah. So
With fire.
that tends to burn away quick. Well, we do have 67%, so the majority of our traffic, 2/3 of it comes from Google+, Twitter, and Facebook, and my blog. So those three places are where all of the links are from, and that's referral traffic. So most of that number, even, about 50% of it is coming from Facebook. So our audience is heavily ingrained into the Facebook. That's fine, but we need to find other methods of finding people.
Yeah, we just need to pay somebody to retweet it for us.
Right.
Like Neil. We get 1 million views.
Yeah. So we've had I want to talk about studios because we've had a few studios.
Oh yeah, I know
So
that.
you want to talk about the first studio we had?
Well, the first studio, wasn't that just your office?
Yeah. So the first studio was my office, and we used the MacBook Air's mic, and we used GarageBand to do all the editing, and we used the iPad to do the initial 10-second introduction thing.
Theme music.
And that lasted up to episode 3. And so then we transitioned to our current studio room, and that's when we had our mixer, our 2 mic setup, our plastic garage sale table, which is great, but just not perfect.
The table was fine, it was just too small.
Yeah, it was a little small. We used our HP laptop to do the recording, we had really short cables, and we couldn't do mix minus. It was kind of sad. We did that up to episode 12, which of course was The Windows Are Jiggly. And, it was a great episode. All the episodes since then were great. But then we moved up to our current status, which would be our L-shaped desk. And so I brought in my main computer tower, and that does all the editing now. It's a much better computer for editing because it actually has a real monitor, real mouse, keyboard, as opposed to the HP. And the HP laptop has now been demoted to a Skype laptop, so it handles all of our mix minus and Skype calls. We now have a 3 mic setup, 2 stands, and 1 desktop stand.
Yeah.
And it works great. We have a new format for sitting, so I sit on the inside of the desk, and Matt sits on the outside of the desk, and our guests can sit somewhere else.
Yeah, that's the one thing we need to improve on.
That is a little tight over there. So we'll
just sledgehammer and we're done in a day.
We'll work on it. So our studio is great.
Yeah.
At this point, we're more money spent in the studio has diminishing returns.
Yeah.
I think we're for the price range we're at right now. It's as good as we're going to get until we go to the next factor of expenditures.
I know what we're going to need next.
What is it?
We need a non-haunted board.
Well, so our board was graciously donated to us by
I'm not belittling
Brian
all.
Reinhardt, and the board is great, but it does have some quirks, and we're not really sure what's going on there.
Yeah.
So a non-haunted board would be preferable.
Well, it says right on the back of it that it's run by Phantom.
Oh wow! There you go. So our studio is great. We're enjoying our time here immensely. We have our collection of goodies over there in the corner.
Yeah, and we have lots of pop cans everywhere.
Yeah. So one of the next things I want to talk about is comments, because a lot of people have raised concerns or questions. Why don't you have a comment form?
So they comment that we need more comments instead of actual something like, hey, I like the show, or
right.
hey, you should do this to improve it.
That's right.
So that's kind of bad.
So one of the reasons I don't have a comment form is that it's generally demoralizing and it is somewhat daunting. So it is demoralizing in the sense that we received little to none on my blog when we did have a comment form. Now, of course, we weren't advertising much then, but it was still on Facebook every time we did it. And the conversion rate was essentially 0. So, in that sense, I think it's better just to not do it at all and just have people either interact with us on the social networks, which we are using anyway to promote our content, or for direct email.
Yeah, because nobody ever actually responds to anything.
Right.
To the best of my knowledge, nobody's submitted a photo for our latest challenge.
No, they have not.
And back when I tried to do my at the first, remember, I started trying to do my tech support tips. Like you'd email me a question and I would submit an answer.
Right. And that didn't work.
Like that.
So even if we did have comments, one of the things I would fear is that they would have little value. So people would just be saying, "Great show, that was wonderful, that was funny," and those things aren't really important or useful for us. Yeah. We actually need interaction, commentary, and intense discussion, and that's not what we're going to get through having a comment form on our website.
You know what I just thought of?
Maybe
a way to increase our views.
What?
So, do you know how people sometimes get angry when we insult somebody, like a group of people?
Yeah.
So we just need to say something so absurd that we just completely anger an entire group of people.
I have to tell you, though, that WordPress doesn't count comment forms as views.
That's fine.
Okay.
But then as soon as they do that, then we just make a public apology, then we get that in the news, like saying, two local St. Paul college students insult these people, make a formal apology.
So, aside from that strategy,
everybody would come and see what this is.
We are looking for alternative options. We might do a kind of a discuss forum, so it is essentially a comment-based system, but it just can be turned off and turned on whenever we need it. That would be preferable to having the built-in WordPress form. But generally speaking, I don't think we're going to be doing comments anytime soon. We might get a better presence on the Google Plus and on the Facebook, such that we'd have like a fan page so that people could have everything centralized, but...
Yeah, but then we have to deal with spammers and other people.
Usually it's pretty generally clean there on both of those platforms. Twitter is kind of, who knows what's going on. But generally we're not going to be doing comments.
Okay.
And I comments sound great, but they just don't work. So you know Twit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Twit is a huge network. They have thousands of viewers live and millions of podcast downloads a day or week or whatever. Well, it turns out that if you look on their website, even on their main show, This Week in Tech, they have incredibly low comments. So comments just don't work for podcasting because it's usually disintermediated, so that the podcasts are on your iPad or on your iPod, and you don't go to the website. You usually just listen to your podcasting app. So it doesn't make sense to emphasize comments or use them.
I agree.
Yeah. So now we're going to talk about audio.
Oh, okay.
So what do you think of our audio?
I think some better mics would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
Some spider cages just to make it look prettier.
Pretty cool, yeah. Well, right now, we've been using Audacity for our audio, and we hope to move on to something better someday when we are not poor, which would be probably Audition. but Audacity has been working great for right now. I use a dynamic compressor plugin for Audacity right now to level the volume, and so far it's been working pretty well. It does make a little bit more background noise than I would prefer, but I can usually fix that. Yeah. I usually silence parts, or I remove parts of silence. Some of our podcasts tend to be drawn out because we have to do research live. Mm-hmm. So it's nice to actually have some kind of continuity, and if we weren't to remove those silences, it would be periods of silence for like minutes.
Yeah, plus sometimes we've been in the middle of a podcast and then quick ran to Burger King.
Right.
And then there's a magical gap in between.
Right. So our Burger King run, it tends to be a problem when we need to actually make a podcast have some kind of timely consistency.
Because we're going to make a run in a few minutes because we're going to go pick out a parrot.
Right. Well, so the quality, I've been doing testing, of course. The quality on iPads, or what is this called again? iPods.
iPod.
Different vowel. Mm-hmm. Well, the quality on iPods sounds pretty good. Quality on mobile phones sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm. With cheap headphones, like the ones that come with your iPod or phone, sounds pretty good. On high-quality studio headphones, it does tend to sound a little bit less good because you can hear more of the nuances, and you can hear some of the static or like the background hum. Sometimes you can hear it. So those things are a little bit iffy, but generally speaking, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Right now, this is a revolutionary number that I just found out today. We have about 14 hours of continuous audio right now. So we can play ourselves for half a day right now. It is great.
Yeah. You know, we could probably mess with some people with that.
Yeah. Just put it over the loudspeakers.
Yeah. So, wait, is that 14 hours of just us, or is that including the...
It's the whole network.
Okay, so if we've done 14 episodes, some of our episodes are, over...
They're variable.
Yeah, a few of them have closing in on 2 hours. Mm-hmm. So...
And so that number, that estimate is without Sam's third show.
I thought you said the whole network.
This was calculated a couple of days ago.
Okay.
So I want to talk about video now, because some of us have queried...
I really need video.
Some of us have queried about video as an option for the network. So when I designed the original website, I never had any intention for video because it was designed for audio.
Mm-hmm. And now it's going to switch to allow embedded YouTube videos.
It always would have allowed embedded YouTube videos, but it just wouldn't have highlighted them in any way, and they wouldn't have been able to be in the stream. They wouldn't have been able to be in the feed.
That's fine.
Not really, though, because that's how people listen to podcasts.
Because we're just going to advertise heavily on Facebook, Twitter, make everybody just find and click and view.
Right. So we're intensely contemplating video, but right now, cost and quality issues are kind of prohibitive. While it is extremely alluring, those two issues are a problem.
So we need donations.
We do need donations. We need an actual camera and actual software to edit the video from that camera.
And we're going to need at least 2 or 3 cameras.
One would be great for right now, but 2 would be better.
We can't make do with 1 right now.
So instead of doing video podcasts like standalone, which would be feasible if we had our equipment and other, auxiliary things, we would be interested in doing a live video stream. So right now we're streaming this live over audio with Ustream, but we could even do this with a webcam that's sufficiently high quality and that can actually produce high quality video.
But if we want to do webcam, we need to change our desk layout.
I would just mount it right here or right there, and it would just look this way.
No,
I'm fine with that.
But it won't.
It'll see enough.
No bloody way.
I think so.
When people do that, they have multiple cameras and they switch and turn.
I don't think you can switch and turn USB.
Yeah, that's why we need multiple cameras.
Yeah, that's not going to happen. But right now, some sufficient webcam would probably enable us to do live streaming. So that might be something we can look into. But right now, I don't think we're going to be doing too much video.
Okay.
At least not on the network.
Yeah. Because I also heard of another show that, just the wind faintly carried a sound of a unannounced genesis of a new show.
Yeah, so that could be something.
Yeah, I heard that was going to be all in video.
Yeah, I never heard that.
I'm telling you right now. Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an audio file to post, but it's going to be totally in video.
Yeah, I won't post that.
It'll totally be in color.
Well, that's good. As long as it's in color, I won't post it. Anyway, so now we're going to talk about Amazon S3.
An amazing thing, yes.
So, there's something called Libsyn, and Libsyn is an expensive service that's $5 a month, and it allows you to upload 100 megabytes of files per month, and then it gives you unlimited bandwidth. Well, we here do a show every week, and Sam and I do a show every week, so we usually do exceed that 100 megabyte limit. So it's a good thing we have Amazon S3, because with any other service, we would probably not be able to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah, because every month I give you half of 0 pennies.
Well, actually, so we're still on the 1-year free tier. Mm-hmm. So because I'm a developer, apparently, we get 1 year free testing and free usage on Amazon S3. So we're currently storing 330 megabytes of data on the S3 account, which is pretty small.
Yeah, I'd imagine it'd be a lot bigger after 15 podcasts.
I would have too, actually. We've only had 305 GET requests in the last 30 days. So, I mean, that doesn't sound extraordinary, but it's reasonable, correlating with our number of views.
Yeah.
We are using 5.1 gigabytes of bandwidth, which is pretty impressive, actually. Mm-hmm. So we're using it very minimally, and we have plenty of room to grow.
Yeah.
And so our growth will be happening in the future, probably quite soon. So S3 is an integral part of that.
Yeah. And then let's see, what else is there to talk about? Oh, yeah. You know how many times we've had pet interruptions on the show?
It's increased significantly since we started, but yeah.
Yeah. At first it was just some pipes in the wall that were bothering us. And then once we had a studio, we started attracting studio animals.
Yes.
And so we had the beloved studio cat start headbutting us during the show several times.
Yeah.
I believe it got its own show title when we chased it off with a vibration device.
Yeah, so the cat and the dog, we have 2 pets here. And, they're great fixtures in the studio. We have the studio cat and the run-of-the-mill dog. Mm-hmm. Well, they do a great job at keeping us entertained during the show, and, that's good for us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why we need a parrot.
Yes, we don't need a parrot, but we'll think about it. So, in light of all of these things, what do you think the current state of the Nexus is?
I mean, after 100 days, that's kind of how, like, when the president assumes office, like, you give him 100 days to see whatever he can do, and then...
it's that first 100-day thing.
Yeah, so, for us, I think...
We did a good job.
Yeah. I built a whole studio. We worked on it together.
We've done a lot of work.
Floor's nice.
The floor is great. The studio is fantastic. The office is a disaster, but that's okay, because nobody needs it.
Yeah, there's some... metallic problems with that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting out there. And the future of this is dependent on who listens, and to some extent, but of course it's dependent on us continuing, and we will be continuing for a long time.
Yeah, because the costs are done until we jump the next tier.
Right,
we're done with big costs.
You've seen the warp drive graph, right?
Yes.
Yes. You're still in warp drive 2 until you get higher than warp drive 3, and then you fall into the bucket of warp drive 3.
Yeah.
So until we jump to that next logarithmic tier, it'll be a while since we do that, and then we'll be spending it again.
We need a tier 3 internet connection here when we do that too.
Actually, according to my usage, we should be able to support 720p streaming during the show.
So now we just got to get some HD cameras to consume all of it.
Right. I don't even know anything about live video switching, so that's your job.
Yeah. That's what I did. I was video camera switcher for a prestigious news group.
Yeah.
It was the most famous morning news segment in all of the land of Minnesota.
Yes. So those things are great. Our shows have been really good.
Yeah, fairly.
The
unsung third one was kind of...
That's because that was number 4. And so originally I had this intention to always do a show regardless if anybody was actually here to do it.
Didn't work, did it?
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it again, but for me now, in my current schedule, if we don't do a show, it'll just happen the week later. And I don't have the time or the resources to actually donate more time to a show that isn't technically legitimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
do you see one thing we haven't talked about much is what are we going to do for expanding our shows? Like, I know you say you don't have resources to make the Nexus bigger, our main show, but you see anything else popping up on the side?
No.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Well, things will just start appearing then.
Yes. So, one of the things, though, is that I don't have any plans. Like, we're not making any announcements right now about anything that's happening in the future, because we just don't know enough about what we will do yet.
Okay.
But I'm sure there is something in the works, and we're just not part of the division that's in charge of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we better watch out for our new rival.
Who's that?
Nexus Labs has started their own studio.
That's terrible.
You have a rival network now.
Huh. Yeah, it's funny
and
that
your rival network spends all this time promoting your network.
You know what I was going to say? It's funny that the CEO of the rival network is the chairman of my network. So, isn't that weird?
Oracle's done stranger things.
That is true. I think a lot of companies have actually done stranger things.
Actually, I got a invite to join a webcast from Oracle. The chief product management sent me an email asking me if I wanted to participate in a study, it's a live cast where you fill in comments and you just explain what you think of his next proposal.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And also, do you know what the CTO is?
Chief Technical Officer, I believe.
Okay, that sounds right, because they both sent me an email about that. Now that I'm doing some crap, I'm getting lots of crap from Oracle and Cisco together.
That's not so bad.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great State of the Nexus.
Yeah.
I think we've discussed what we've done and what might be happening soon.
So, one thing we have to do is come up with a rating system, like a 10-star rating system, and we need to find a way to grade ourselves over a period of time.
You know what? If we don't do well, we won't be doing this.
Yeah.
I think that is the rating system.
Well, I guess we could just do views.
No, but I think our rating system in general is that if we don't do well, we're not going to talk about it.
But how do you categorize doing well?
If we're proud of what we do, we'll talk about it.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we seem to be in a pretty stateful place.
Indeed, stateful. With REST APIs. That's right. Yeah. So, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me at my new blog at MatthewPetrel.com.
Okay, that's great. You can find me all over the place. Twitter, Facebook, Google+.
Yeah,
and of course, you can just Google me too.
You can also email me at matt@nexuslabs.org.
Yeah.
And
don't email me.
Remember, if you go to my website, feel free to laugh.
That's right. Well, this is Ryan Rampersad for the Nexus. Have a good one.
And this is Matthew Butchell signing off.